Hello, everybody, and welcome back to MVP Baseball 2005. We are in our little hub, off to a really great start here in the month of September. Obviously, as we know, we're making a push for the playoffs here in the month of September. We're sitting in a good spot, currently first place in the NL East, but we have some pretty major divisional matchups throughout the rest of the month of September that we're going to have to perform, better than 500 throughout the course of the month if we want to clinch a division title or even make it to the playoffs in general. So this is a massive series. We already picked up a series win against the Braves heading into this month, and now we have our last series against the Braves this season taking on in this month. And I know I try and diversify the opponents a little bit, but the Braves just seem to be the team that we always find ourselves pitted against with the most stakes and most odds. So this one is really going to be important. I probably could have waited maybe a little bit later on in the month for the day that we clinch, if we are to clinch, but I figured the series was really important, and we're getting things started with Jose Guillen in the top of the second in a full count, and Jose Guillen's going to draw a walk as that four-seam fastball misses inside just a little bit, 92-mile-per-hour four-seamer. And that's going to bring up Endy Chavez, who's known for just providing hits when we need it. And on that first pitch, he's going to reach for a ball that's out of the strike zone, and I was just going to bloop down the left field line, and it was corralled by the left fielder, but kind of had to take a bit of a tumble just to get to it, and that's going to allow Endy Chavez to stretch this one into a two-bagger when maybe it could have potentially been a single. Just a really awkward spot on the field to drop a ball, and really just an even more awkward spot to hit it. Endy Chavez really had to reach out of the box for that one, just to get it down the left field line. So we will take that. So now with runners in scoring position, we got Matt Holliday, the big hitting first baseman, up to bat with one away, and he's going to crank this one all the way out to center field. And on the run, Braves center fielder is going to make an amazing catch on the run, but by tagging up, Jose Guillen and Endy Chavez are going to be able to advance, and that's going to send Jose Guillen home. So Matt Holliday doesn't leave the yard here, doesn't get us 3 runs, but he does get us 1. So we will take an early lead in this ball game, and that's going to be all she wrote for that inning. So we fast forward later on, and it's Matt Holliday now with the runner on second in the top of the fourth with 2 outs, and he's going to bloop this one down the right field line into right field, and that is going to get the lead runner home around third. So Matt Holliday now generating some offense here any way that he can. But now we have Mike Hampton, the pitcher in this game, and he's got a man on third, and this meatball is going to get absolutely hammered out to left field. So the pitcher now for the Braves providing some offense here where the rest of their lineup cannot. So he's doing pretty much everything here. He's held our offense to just 2 runs here through the first handful of innings, and now he's going to tie the game up completely on his own. He said, fine, if no one will do it, then I will. So I don't think we've seen really any clutch hitting from a pitcher in this series. I think maybe the Marlins game at the beginning of this season, I think, had a nice pitcher hit in there, but we don't see too much of it. So Brian Schneider 0 for 2 in this game with a strikeout here in the top of the 6th, a runner on first, and that ball is going to miss on the inside. Actually, I think I might have gotten a little bit of the inside corner there, and it was Endy Chavez who was the leadoff man, and he tries to steal second, and he is thrown out. So we know that Endy Chavez's stealing numbers haven't been what they were last season, but on the next pitch, Brian Schneider sends this one out to left field, the same place that the Braves pitcher to Amlin sent it in the previous inning, and so we're going to retake the lead. What could have been a 2-run homer is just simply a solo shot from Brian Schneider, the catcher, because Endy Chavez wanted to get thrown out. So, unfortunately, the stealing numbers haven't been what we expect them to be, what we need them to be, unfortunately. So, but still, you can't be mad with another home run, in this game. So, now taking the lead. Now, Adam LaRoche, the first baseman here for the Braves, he's got 2 men aboard with 1 away here in an 0-1 count. What can we do against him? And it's not much, as he bloops this one into left center field, and the Braves are going to threaten to send one home, and they will, as the relay is sent out to Christian Guzman at third, and they're not even going to try and threaten at home. So the Braves are going to tie this game back up here with some nice timely hitting from LaRoche out into the outfield. Just a nice single, a nice well-hit single here, and Andrew Jones is going to round third, and he's going to get home. So nice clutch hitting from the Atlanta Braves to keep this one competitive. So we fast forward ahead to J.D. Corey, one of our young hot hitters on this team here in this top of the 7th in a 1-1 count. And Corey's going to take this inside pitch in the corner, and he's going to crank this one out to left field, the same place that the other 2 home runs in this game have been from both teams alike. So that's part of the ballpark. He's getting quite a bit of souvenirs to take home as J.D. Corey smashes this inside pitch all the way out to left field, clearing the fence. So we are going to take another lead over the Braves here, a 4-3 lead. Wes King is very happy about his fellow prospect, his fellow young man, fellow young teammate, providing some offense, so much needed clutch hitting here to the Nationals. So next up, after J.D. Corey's Woody Cordero, another prospect, our top prospect in our system in a 4-3 game. And on the first pitch, that one's going to be absolutely hammered and lasered all the way out into that second row. I don't know if you can call that a second deck. It was just kind of the second section of seating there in the lower bowl. But Woody Cordero, man, absolutely crushes this baseball. Two very, very ugly pitches from the Braves pitching staff on back-to-back pitches end up in the seats. So not a lot of impactful home runs here, but two solo shots going to give us a 2-run lead. And now a young Braves hitter, Baco, here is going to answer back himself, and he's going to crank one all the way out into left field. Another meatball from our pitching staff is going to end up in the exact same spot in the ballpark, man. They've now gotten, 4 or 5 home runs? There's a lot of home run balls there. There's probably people who are battered like after a football game trying to fight over home run balls. So, but it's another massive hit for the Braves. So they come back within just one now, and nothing is set in stone, folks. I mean, we can still lose this game here. We're getting some clutch hitting here, but we need something to happen on the pitching side of things. So Johnny Estrada here, the catcher for the Braves here, with a man on second. The pitch is up, and this one is going to get carried down the left field line. It's just going to scrape by the wall here, 373 feet over the wall into left field. An Oppo Taco for the catcher here, Estrada, as the Braves are going to now take the lead here. It's a go-ahead 2-run home run here in the 8th inning, or the 7th inning, the bottom of the 7th. And the Braves now holding on firmly to this lead in a very, very important divisional game here. It's a long series, but all these games are going to carry some weight here as we fight for the division. So Jose Guillen here, we know what he is capable of. He has walked twice in this game. He's got a man on first. He can win it with a swing of the bat. We've seen it before, but that swing of the bat is not going to land. It's not going to provide the offense that we need, as we already had 2 outs. And so a pop fly to center field is going to end the Nationals' rally here late in this ball game. So that is going to do it. The Braves are going to even the series here as we took the first game. So we're going to be heading into Game 3, maybe trying to take another series win over the Braves, which would be absolutely massive, but that is going to do it for the game. So we're going to head back into the Hub World here, but first we have our goals here for the season. So take a look at our goals here. We're going to get probably more in-depth in those as we get back into the actual Hub World, but we do accomplish our goals for the year in our first 3 years. This screen appeared before the month did, so we will now get into the rest of the month. Okay, so now in the hub, officially, you've just seen the little screen indicating that we have accomplished our goals as a GM, at least through our first initial contract, and seen our record as well. And so that must obviously mean that we are poised to be a playoff team. And taking a look at September here really quickly before we get into all that, just recap the month very, very quickly. We started off very, very hot, winning the series against the Braves at home, and then sweeping the Cubs immediately after. And then we picked up another series win against the Braves. So those 2 series against the Braves were really the catalyst, I guess, for setting a nice little buffer between the 2 of us heading in through this final month. The Marlins gave us about everything that we could handle, though, in this 4-game set. Then the Phillies took one from us, but we did pick up another series win against the Mets, and then got revenge on the Phillies later on in the month, but the Marlins were still just absolutely giving us everything that they could. Thankfully, they were kind of in the bottom or in the back of like the pack of 2 or 3 teams that were fighting for the NL East, so we could afford to maybe give up a series or 2 to the Marlins as long as we were still winning games outside of that, which we were. So with a 14-13 record in September, we managed to keep pretty much our same pace. So as long as the Braves or Marlins didn't really get hot at some point throughout September, we were going to win our division. So, but we did lose a series against the Mets to end the year. So that's how that goes. And then the Zephyrs, the New Orleans Zephyrs, are also now a playoff team. I don't know if their playoffs have started or not, but they had to play an extra game. This is like their game 163 or whatever the equivalent in AAA would be, but that got them their division title. So they will also be playing in the Pacific Coast League playoffs whenever those begin. So, but yeah, spoiler alert, playoffs is here. We're finally here, and we got everything. Season rewards, we get the wrap-up and everything. So, I guess that'll be the bracket, but We're going to look, of course, at numbers first, as we normally do on here. So, offensively, Christian Guzman still absolutely lighting things up. One of the biggest things I want to note, just broadly over the entire roster, is home runs. It really didn't feel throughout the season that we were hitting with a ton of power, but if you look at the lineup screen, especially paid attention in the game that we just watched, recapped rather, everyone on this team, aside from like maybe one person, is hitting over like 10 or 15 home runs, which is absolutely nuts. I don't know when the last time that's happened in the majors. I'm sure it's probably a lot more common than I think it is, but to have everyone on your team sitting at like 15 plus home runs in your lineup is absolutely bonkers. Absolutely bonkers, especially because we have a lot of guys on the roster that statistically or stats-wise, aren't known for hitting with a ton of power, and I feel like Christian Guzman is one of those guys, boasting a 47 and 63 power rating against lefties and righties. You wouldn't think 16 home runs is a feat that he could reach rather easily, but here we are. But also hitting over 315, so this is a lot closer to year one Christian Guzman that we saw. Even a little bit better, I would probably say. He had an amazing season. I'm so glad that he's back to his hitting ways. Andy Chavez still hovering around the 300 mark after what he went through last year, the season that he was having, especially historic with stolen bases. Stolen bases numbers have curtailed quite a bit here, but I'm not super worried because still hitting over 300 and providing the power that he does and slugging as much as he does. I mean, there's always a place for Andy Chavez on this team. Jose Guillen cooled off quite a bit heading through September. He struggled quite a bit, and we can't really afford to have Jose Guillen struggling a lot. I mean, he can obviously struggle, still hitting in the 290s or close to 300. He can struggle a lot. He hit the most home runs on the team, so we can afford him struggling a little bit, but the more that average slips and that more that OBP slips and he becomes more of like a two outcome kind of hitter, that's going to be not something very sustainable as we move ahead into the postseason, which is even crazy to say. Woody Cordero is here in the everyday role, and we will find out why. Just bear with me. But he hasn't done the best with his opportunities. Still hasn't had a large sample size here. He's played probably more games towards the end of the month, but we still haven't really gotten the most full look of Woody Cordero as an everyday starter. So I'm not fully out on him yet here. Maybe those numbers trend upward a little bit throughout spring training and stuff. Maybe we can see a little bit more of a blossom from Woody as we kind of continue to stick with him in this role. So moving ahead. Wes King, man, a great sophomore season from Wes King. I think he's only trended upward since the beginning of the season. Didn't really light the world on fire, I think, to start things off, but as the season has progressed, he's been a very consistent and above-average hitter, especially at the shortstop position. He's been locking down the middle infield. I'm glad that we've been able to really get the topmost production from our infield. I think that's really where our offense has kind of supported itself, where our outfield maybe has struggled or slipped in a couple of roles and stretches throughout the year. We've really been able to rely on our middle infield just completely carrying the load. Nate Bruce is also here, but again, he's been more of a bench and just kind of a backup kind of guy. But of course, with the roster situation that we need to talk about, we will probably be seeing more of Nate Bruce moving forward, unfortunately. So, and then Brian Schneider, man, ended up having a pretty decent year. I think he also started slow, but had a pretty decent year. So, offensively, we know exactly what we're getting out of this team. Matt Holliday also finishes the end of the year very strong. He had a really strong last couple months of the year, and he put up numbers that I am very proud of. Getting that home run number up over 20 is absolutely massive for him. I'm not sure what the contract situation looks like financially with a lot of these guys on the team, but we might be in for a lot of money tied up in a lot of guys moving ahead, especially with a guy like Jose Vidro with his numbers this year, man. A slug over 500 is beautiful. Almost got that OBP over 400, which would have been nice. Almost hit 20 home runs, too, man. Just sitting on the doorstep of a few nice little milestone numbers that I would have liked, but I really cannot be mad about a single thing that Jose Vidro did this year, because he's been one of our best hitters. I mean, I guess by average, he is our best hitter easily. So, looking at our bench here, again, there's not much to look at. Ivan Vucarina's numbers have gone up a lot in his limited role. Maybe he played a little bit towards the back end of the month here, maybe saw some more time. Brian Boskin just kind of sitting exactly where he always has this year, just fulfilling that backup catcher role very well. And then Will Cordero, again, much like Ivan Vukarina, hasn't seen much of the diamond this year. Probably won't, but he's a nice little backup outfielder to have on the bench. And Ivan Vukarina is really just only a backup first baseman. So with the outfield options that we have, we might be shuffling some stuff around here, try to get Nate Bruce out of the lineup because of I'll just tell you, go into the disabled list. There's a name you didn't see. It's JD Corey. JD Corey tore his torn knee meniscus. I guess he tore his ACL, and he's out for the remainder of the season. This happened towards the back half of September, like the last week or two of the month. This injury happened, so we will be going into the postseason without JD Corey on the team, man. So that is absolutely brutal to miss JD Corey. So last year we lost Andy Chavez, one of our most productive and disruptive forces on the base paths towards the end of the month. And this month we lose JD Corey. So, yeah. So we're going to need to figure something out with our outfield. Like I was looking around here, because we can start Matt Holliday in the outfield, we'll probably put him in left. And, it's interesting now. He's a true first baseman. But no, we're going to probably start him in the left, put Bruce back on the bench here, and then just probably ride that as our outfield, and then maybe put Ivan Vukarina back in as an everyday first baseman and see if he can kind of step up to the occasion in the postseason. I really hope so. So we do have a couple options at first if we absolutely have to, and of course we can shuffle around the outfield if we need Matt Holliday to be at first. So we have options. We definitely still have options with JD Corey out. It's not like he's replaceable, but we definitely still have options. So looking over the pitching side of things, CC Sabathia ends up finishing with a pretty respectable pitching record. Not that that matters a ton, but ERA at 4.21. I really just that's not terrible for CC Sabathia, I guess, at this stage in the game. I think the money that we've sunk, we're probably not getting. So if he can just do anything that's not the worst on the team, we'll take it. And a 4.21 as our ace is what it is. We'll accept that, I guess. Mike Grace, sitting in the mid-fours, or kind of lower fours, really. I'm okay with this. I think that's pretty good. I think kind of like Woody Cordero, if we can kind of continue to invest a little bit more in Mike Grace long-term as a starter now at the major league level, we will probably see these numbers continue to increase and continue to get better. So I'm all for investing in Mike Grace and, of course, Woody Cordero on both sides of the ball here. Casey Fossum really has himself probably the most premier year in our staff, just in terms of workload, because, pitching almost 200 innings this year, over 120 strikeouts, and then having an ERA in the mid-threes is just something that I don't think you're going to see across the rest of this staff here. So big ups to Casey Fossum. I'm glad that this free agent signing ended up at least resulting in some pretty good things for the team here in a lot of ways. So Tony Armas Jr. has a pretty Tony Armas Jr. season. I think that ERA is a little bit lower on average. So it's nice to see that our staff ERA is kind of hovering right around the 4 mark. Maybe a little bit higher than that, averaging out to probably like a 4.10. But it's good to see that everyone's at least around there, because we can sustain wins with an ERA in the 4s. A lot of these guys had great starts to the month. The end of the month was a little bit different, kind of back and forth. But a lot of these guys had very, very good starts to the month. So I was shocked that we were doing as good as we were with this pitching. And then Sungwoo Kim is probably the weakest link here. But again, for everyone to sit around in the low to mid 4s in the staff, I will take that. That's probably the best our starting rotation has ever looked at the end of the year. So good to see. Good omen heading into the postseason. Jeff Bennett's ERA sits around a 3. He was just kind of not average. I mean, he was still pretty good, but he obviously shook a little bit towards the end of the summer here and just kind of didn't really recover from that. But he's still one of the better guys that we got in the pen. Same with Seth Griesinger. I mean, these guys had very similar seasons. There was a large portion of the summer where they were just completely unhittable, and then that kind of stopped, and their numbers ballooned just a tiny bit, and they just kind of became that person where it was like you're automatic, 60 to 70% of the time, but the rest of that time we could expect you to probably have a pretty bad outing. So John Rauch's numbers inflate a little bit too, but still have a pen with guys with ERAs in the low to mid-3s we will happily take. Travis Harper becomes one of the best additions at the deadline, just clearly. He is easily our best, or probably most reliable middle relief guy. And with his stamina, I can kind of even put him in long relief if I have to. If I need a guy to kind of I can confidently close out at least of like 2 innings, in the back end, and at least go out and maybe start the 9th inning, and then we can go to a closer. Travis Harper's that guy, man. So he's been very, very helpful for us since we've acquired him at the deadline. Claudio Vargas still struggling, obviously. His future here in Washington is probably not. There's got to be someone probably in New Orleans that's probably a little bit more worthwhile to at least keep here, but I don't know, the staff between the two isn't like super great, so he's just kind of bit the time since you just need an extra reliever, someone in low leverage, and that's him. That's the role he plays. Luis Ayala has a pretty good September here, gets those numbers down a little bit more. Walk numbers are higher than I'd like. I think he did blow another game in this month too, but just the consistency from Ayala as a setup guy really wasn't there this year, but he was just kind of a good reliever, and I don't need a good reliever out of Luis Ayala. I specifically need him to be the setup guy to really kind of close that door for Urbina, and Urbina's numbers, again, just kind of settled in that mid-4, kind of trending towards higher 4, so that really awful start that he had to the year just kind of defined his season, unfortunately, because he was the best reliever that we had last year, the best thing about our pitching staff that we had last year, and it just didn't end up going that way this year, unfortunately, but we found a way to make it work, man. And that 2-7 record, the reason you can kind of highlight that is just because it's kind of indicative of how he was actually as a closer. I think it does show his saves, but it's not going to show me blown saves or opportunities. So the 2-7, I guess, is where you can kind of look in and focus on that. Those games that he was kind of responsible for losing himself. So there were 9 instances in which he could have been qualified for losing a game, and they definitely did. More often than not, he was losing them in those situations. But that is how the team stacks up. Our pitching staff is really kind of evened out into just kind of like an average to kind of a slightly above average staff. Despite what the numbers say. I mean, this is probably the highest our pitching staff has ever ranked. At 26th, we're normally 29th or 30th, so we're finally up to 26th. And then without J.D. Corey, we dropped down to just a top 15 offense rather than sitting around the 10 mark. So I guess season wrap-up is what we'll go to. Yeah, so we can look at standings now and look at how everything sort of paired out, and then maybe if we can find a playoff tree, that's where we'll end it, I guess. We'll get into it. So we do win the NL East, so not only do we win are we going to the postseason, but we won our division, which is great, man. I really wanted to win the division. I didn't want to be a wildcard team. I figured if it was possible to get into the postseason, I wanted it to be through the division and not just the wild card. So we do manage to hold on to a nice 2-game buffer over the Braves here, and the Phillies even overtook the Marlins towards the back half of the month here, but both teams missing out on the postseason since the Braves aren't even going, and they're 85 and 77. It's kind of like we were. They're in the same position that we were last year, hovering in the 83 to 85 win area and not being able to go to the postseason. But we are going because we win the NL East. In the AL West, the Athletics are going to take the AL West here. The Angels and Rangers kind of threaten, but not really. And the Mariners are, of course, way out of it. The Twins take home the AL Central. I think it's for the second straight year. Or was it the Indians last year? I can't remember. But I want to say the Twins won it last year as well. But the Twins have one of the better records in the American League and take a 7-game lead over the Royals. But the Royals are the wild card spots. So really top-loaded American League this year as the Tigers, Indians, and White Sox kind of struggled to keep their heads above water this year. Even the Tigers being around 500, still 15 games behind in their own division, man. So tough, top-loaded American League this year. In the AL East, the Red Sox I would probably venture to guess that might be the best record in baseball, but they went over 100 games and take the AL East. I'd love to know the day that they clinch the AL East because the Yankees and Devil Rays being over 20 games behind, they probably had to have clinched this within the first week of September. I mean, I swear, they probably had to. So another tough year from the Orioles and Blue Jays as well. So maybe we'll see something change in the AL East in the coming years. I doubt it. In the rest of the National League, so the Giants win the NL West. Interesting enough, I know this division, I think, kind of changed hands a few times throughout the course of the month here. A lot of teams are kind of hovering around where the Rockies and Diamondbacks were, and I guess the Giants just kind of emerged as the one favorite. It's the one team that could just keep their stuff together long enough to win the division, so they're going to get a division title this year. And then the Cardinals, the defending World Series champs, are going to be back in the postseason. They're probably going to be the top-seeded team at 97 and 65. We're probably going to be the lowest, so we're probably going to have to play the Pirates, I would imagine, who take the wild card spot. So How do I feel against the Pirates? I don't know. I don't know. But we'll look at the bracket and officially see how things are going. The Astros just narrowly miss out on a wild card spot here, just sitting behind the Braves, and the rest of the division is the rest of the division. They're just sitting down in the bottom. So that is how the standings pan out. So I guess we're going to go into advance to playoffs, and let's see what is in store for us. Okay, so here we go. Here's the organization now. So yes, the Zephyrs did make it to the playoffs, as did we, and of course the Senators and the Cannons did not. They both had pretty bad seasons. So, but we will have two teams in the organization that we'll be focusing on playoffs. I'm not entirely sure how we're going to manage doing both of them. I do want to focus a little bit on the Zephyrs a little bit. Maybe I can record these games alongside our games, but I'll focus on us, and then after whatever happens with us happens, then maybe I'll do a Zephyrs episode and just kind of like, hey, this is what ended up happening to them. So I'll probably do that. But we are going to be playing the Cardinals. So let's see here, around the playoffs. Playoff tree, perfect. So here we go. We are going to be playing the Cardinals. I'm very curious. Since the Cardinals are easily the top seed in the National League, and then the Giants probably would have been the 2 seed, and then I think we're the 3, and the Pirates would be the 4. So is that how the playoffs used to work? 1 and 3 and 2 and 4? I don't know. I guess not. Maybe I'm just reading it incorrectly. I don't know. But we have to play the defending World Series champs. So God help us. We've played them a lot. Actually, let's do that. Let's look at our schedule here and just see what the season series with, or I guess I can't because the regular season is gone. I can't look at it. I was going to try and look at our season series with the Cardinals, but I guess I can't. So we'll just hang the screen on this here. So I will show the Zephyrs at some point. Just it's not super important to trump what we're doing here in the major leagues, of course, in the playoffs. So we're going to focus on the Nationals primarily, and then maybe after we're eliminated, or maybe after we make it to the next round, we'll focus on the Zephyrs and see what they did in a separate episode. So that's my plan moving forward. But we are going to be playing the World Series, defending World Series champs. We're going to be playing them in the divisional series. The Giants are going to be playing the Pirates, who are the wild card team, and then the Red Sox are going to be playing the Kansas City Royals, who are the wild card team, and then the Twins are going to be playing the Athletics. So that is how the divisional series is going to shape up. So, series recap. Okay, yeah, okay. I'm playing with buttons. Just ignore me playing with buttons. So, thank you all for watching. We finally made it to the playoffs in year number 3. I wasn't sure if we'd be able to, and I figured if this year didn't go well and we kind of lost our job, I would just kind of end the series. And then when baseball season came back around in the spring, we would just try it again in this game. And, with the knowledge I gained from this series, we would do a little bit better. But it's still going, and we're in the postseason now. So who knows? Maybe if I can continue to keep this successful enough, the team, that is, keep the team successful enough, we might be able to run it until the next Major League season in real life. So I'm not sure how long I want to run baseball on the channel in the off season. But we're already in December, so we only got a few months to potentially stretch this national series if it will continue that way. I'm not sure what the end game is, but not that we're in an end game situation here, but through the first contract, we've accomplished the goals that we're going to, so we know that there's at least probably going to be another at least 2 or 3 more seasons of this, which I'm fine with. So we will see how far we go, but right now we got playoffs on the mind, baby. 2007 Nationals have made the postseason. I gotta cross-reference that with the real-life Nationals. I don't know. I think the Nationals' first playoff appearance was 2011. Am I crazy thinking that? I don't know. I'd have to look into it. It might have been before that, or even after that. I don't know. But they win a World Series in 2019, as we all know. So we have plenty of time to accomplish that and beat the real-life Washington Nationals. So, but for right now, we're in the postseason, so let's just revel in that. Let's just enjoy that. Glad that you've all been a part of this journey, and hope to see you guys in St. Louis when we take on the top-seeded Cardinals.